I forgave him on a Tuesday. By Thursday, I wished I hadn't. The phone fell out of his coat pocket while I was taking it to the dry cleaners. Not his iPhone with the cracked screen that he carried everywhere. Not the work phone from his accounting firm. This was a third phone, a burner, the kind people buy when they have something to hide. My hands trembled as I held the sleek black device. It was warm, recently used. The screen lit up with a text notification. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Same hotel? A. 23 years of marriage collapsed in the 3 seconds it took me to read those words. I stood in our bedroom in Portland, Oregon, surrounded by the life we'd built together. The king-size bed where we'd made love just 2 nights ago after his tearful apology. The framed photos of our children, Emma, now 21 and in her senior year at Berkeley, and Michael, 19 and studying engineering at MIT. The anniversary cards lined up on my dresser. 23 years of I love yous, and you're the only one. All lies. Just 6 days earlier, I'd caught him. Not red-handed in bed with another woman, but through something almost more insulting. A credit card statement I wasn't supposed to see. Hotel charges. Restaurant bills at places we'd never been together. Jewelry purchases I'd never received. When I confronted him, he crumbled like a sandcastle at high tide. He got on his knees. Actually got on his knees on our kitchen floor, tears streaming down his face, and begged me to forgive him. He said it was a mistake, a moment of weakness, a midlife crisis gone wrong. He swore it was over. He promised it would never happen again. He said he'd do anything, counseling, therapy, whatever I needed, to rebuild my trust. I'm 51 years old, and I believed him. God, I was such a fool. The affair he'd confessed had been with someone from his gym, a woman named Ashley. Younger, obviously. They always are. He said it lasted 3 months, and that he'd ended it the moment I found the credit card statement. He said seeing the pain in my eyes made him realize what he was throwing away. He said he chose me, us, our family. I chose to believe him because the alternative was too terrifying. Starting over at 51, alone, after spending my entire adult life as Rachel Morrison, wife of David Morrison, mother of Emma and Michael, the woman who gave up her teaching career to support his rise through the ranks at Patterson and Associates. So I forgave him. I actually forgave him. We'd even made love that Monday night. My own way of trying to reclaim him, to mark my territory, to convince myself that we could recover from this. He held me afterward and whispered promises into my hair. I fell asleep believing that our worst was behind us. But here I stood, 48 hours later, holding evidence that he'd lied about every single word. The phone buzzed again in my palm. Another message from A. Babe, are you there? David? My knees buckled. I sat hard on the edge of our bed. The phone clutched so tightly my knuckles went white. The room spun. The walls seemed to close in. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what this meant. He hadn't ended it. He'd never ended it. The tears, the apologies, the promises, all theater. A performance to buy himself time while he figured out how to keep both lives running. The wife at home and the mistress on the side. I heard his car pull into the driveway, the sound of the garage door opening, his footsteps in the hallway. My husband, home from work, probably expecting to find me preparing dinner like I had every night for 2 decades. Instead, he found me sitting on our bed, holding his secret. Rachel? His voice carried from downstairs. Honey, I'm home. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I was too busy scrolling through the phone, my finger swiping through message after message, each one a knife to the heart. Miss you so much. Last night was incredible. When can we be together for real? I know you're stuck right now, but soon, right? And from him, soon, I promise. Just need to handle things at home first. Handle things at home. That's what I was now, a thing to be handled. Let me tell you who I am, or rather, who I was before that Thursday afternoon shattered everything I thought I knew. My name is Rachel Ann Morrison. I was born Rachel Bennett in Eugene, Oregon, the oldest daughter of a nurse and a high school teacher. I grew up believing in love, in commitment, in the sanctity of wedding vows. My parents celebrated 47 years of marriage before my father passed away from a heart attack. My mother still wears her wedding ring. I met David when I was 28 and he was 30. I just finished my master's in education and was teaching English at Lincoln High School in Portland. He was a junior accountant at a small firm, ambitious and charming, with warm brown eyes and a smile that made me feel like I was the only woman in the world. We dated for a year. He proposed on the day I got tenure. We married 6 months later in a small ceremony at my parents' church in Eugene, surrounded by family and friends who all said we were perfect for each other. Maybe we were. Once. I got pregnant with Emma 2 years into our marriage. That's when everything started to shift. David's career was taking off. He'd moved to Patterson & Associates, one of Portland's most prestigious accounting firms. The hours were brutal. He'd leave at 6 in the morning and come home at 9 at night, sometimes later during tax season. Just until I make partner, he'd say. Then things will calm down. So I stepped back from my career. Not all the way at first, just reduced hours, part-time teaching. But when Michael came along 18 months after Emma, I stopped working entirely. It made sense at the time. David was earning enough for both of us. The kids needed me. He needed me to manage the household so he could focus on climbing that corporate ladder. I became a professional wife and mother. I packed lunches and attended PTA meetings. I volunteered at the school book fairs. I drove to soccer practice and piano lessons. I hosted dinner parties for David's colleagues and their wives. I smiled and nodded and made sure our home was always perfect, always ready to impress. David made partner when he was 39. The money got better. We moved from our modest starter home in Northeast Portland to a beautiful 4-bedroom house in West Lynn with a view of the Willamette River. We took family vacations to Hawaii and Disneyland. We bought a vacation cabin at Mount Hood. I thought we were living the American dream. But somewhere in those years of children and mortgages and career advancement, we stopped being partners and became roommates. We stopped making love and started having sex, when we had it at all. We stopped talking about dreams and started discussing logistics. Who's picking up Emma? What time is Michael's game? Did you pay the electric bill? I told myself this was normal. This was what long-term marriage looked like. The passion fades, but the commitment remains. That's what my mother always said. Marriage isn't about butterflies in your stomach, Rachel. It's about choosing each other every single day, even when it's hard. I chose David every single day. Last year, both kids left for college. Emma to Berkeley with a full academic scholarship. My daughter, the brilliant one, studying psychology and planning to get her PhD. Michael to MIT's engineering program, following in his father's mathematical footsteps. Suddenly, David and I were alone in our big house for the first time in 20 years. I thought it would be a new chapter for us, a chance to rediscover each other, to travel, to reconnect. Instead, I discovered that without the kids as a buffer, we had nothing to say to each other. He stayed late at the office even more frequently. He joined a gym and started working out every morning at 5. He bought new clothes, got a haircut at an expensive salon instead of his usual barbershop, started caring about his appearance in a way he hadn't in years. I thought he was having a midlife crisis. I thought it was about turning 50 and wanting to feel young again. I never imagined he was dressing up for someone else. The first real crack appeared 3 weeks before I found the credit card statement. We were at a dinner party hosted by one of David's colleagues, Marcus Chen, and his wife, Jennifer. The kind of evening I'd attended 100 times before. Good wine, expensive catering, conversations about interest rates and real estate markets and whose kids got into which universities. I was in the kitchen helping Jennifer arrange dessert when I heard David's laugh from the living room. Not his polite, professional laugh, his real laugh, the one I hadn't heard directed at me in years. I walked back into the living room and found him leaning close to a woman I didn't recognize, his hand on her arm, his eyes bright with an energy I'd forgotten he possessed. "Rachel," he straightened up quickly, too quickly. "This is Ashley Winters. She just joined our gym." "Ashley, this is my wife, Rachel." Ashley was everything I wasn't anymore. Late 20s, maybe 30 at most. Blonde hair that cascaded down her back in perfect waves. Skin that glowed with youth and expensive skincare. A body that had never carried children, never stretched and sagged with pregnancy and age. She wore a fitted black dress that showed off legs that went on forever. "So nice to meet you," she said, extending a perfectly manicured hand. Her smile was warm, friendly, genuine. She looked me right in the eye like she had nothing to hide. Maybe she didn't know he was married. Maybe he told her he was single. Maybe I was just the obstacle standing between them and their happiness. "David talks about you all the time at the gym," she continued. "He's so dedicated to his fitness journey. Fitness journey. Since when did my husband have a fitness journey? Does he?" I managed to keep my voice steady, pleasant. He's certainly been spending a lot of time there. Well, it's paying off. Ashley's eyes flicked to David, and something passed between them. Something I recognized because I'd felt it once. That electric charge, that unspoken intimacy. David changed the subject quickly, steering us towards safer territory. Something about a work conference in Seattle. But I couldn't focus on the words. I was too busy watching the way he looked at her when he thought I wasn't paying attention, the way she laughed at his jokes, the way they seemed to orbit each other throughout the rest of the evening. When we got home that night, I asked him about her. Who? Ashley? He was already loosening his tie, heading for the bedroom. She's nobody, just someone from the gym. Why? You seemed pretty friendly with her. He turned to look at me, his expression confused, maybe slightly annoyed. Rachel, she's just an acquaintance. What are you implying? What was I implying? That my husband was having an affair? Based on what? A conversation at a party? A laugh? The way he looked at another woman? I felt ridiculous, paranoid, like a jealous wife seeing threats where none existed. Nothing, I said. I'm not implying anything. We never talk anymore, David. And when I see you light up with someone else like that, it hurts. He sighed, the kind of sigh that said he was tired of this conversation before it even started. Rachel, I talk to you every day. About logistics, about bills and schedules and Emma's graduation plans. When's the last time we talked about us? About what we want? About anything that matters? I'm tired, he said. Can we do this another time? Another time never came. 2 weeks later, I was organizing our filing cabinet when I found the credit card statement. I wasn't snooping. I was just trying to prepare our documents for tax season, something I did every year. But there it was. A charge for $1,247 at the Heathman Hotel in downtown Portland. Dinner for two at Le Pigeon, one of the most romantic restaurants in the city. A jewelry purchase at Twist, a trendy boutique I'd never set foot in. All on dates when David claimed he was working late. My hands shook as I looked through previous month statements. More hotel charges, more restaurants, a pattern stretching back 4 months. I confronted him that night. He confessed within minutes, crying, apologizing, blaming his age, his fear of mortality, his stupidity, and like a fool, I forgave him. But let me take you further back, because you need to understand what I sacrificed for this marriage. When I met David, I wasn't just a teacher. I was good at it. I loved standing in front of a classroom, watching teenagers' faces light up when they finally understood Shakespeare or discovered the power of their own written voice. I'd won the Oregon Department of Education's Outstanding New Teacher Award my second year. I was on track for department head. I had dreams. I wanted to write curriculum, maybe even write books about teaching methodology. I'd been accepted into a PhD program at Portland State University, ready to start the semester after David and I got married. I deferred my admission when I got pregnant with Emma. Just for a year, I told myself, just until she's in daycare. But David's career exploded that year. He brought home his first 6-figure paycheck and convinced me that we didn't need my income, that I could stay home with Emma, really be present for her childhood in a way my working mother had never been able to be present for mine. You can go back to teaching later, he said. There's plenty of time. So I did. I stayed home. And when Michael came along, staying home became permanent. I told myself it was a choice, that I was choosing my family over my career, that there was nobility in sacrifice, in putting your children first, in supporting your husband's dreams, even when it meant setting aside your own. But the truth? David never saw it as a sacrifice. He saw it as the natural order of things. His career mattered. Mine was optional. I remember the exact moment I realized this. Emma was 5, Michael was 3. We were at a neighborhood barbecue, and someone asked me what I did. Before I could answer, David jumped in. Rachel's a stay-at-home mom, full-time mother. It's a very important job. The way he said it, like he was defending me, like being a mother needed a defense, made my stomach twist. And the look in his eyes, that slight patronizing kindness, said everything. He thought I'd given up teaching because I couldn't handle both, because I wasn't ambitious enough, because being a mother was the ceiling of my capabilities. I'd given up my dreams to support his, and he pitied me for it. But I pushed it down. I threw myself into motherhood with the same passion I'd once thrown into teaching. I was going to be the best mother, the best wife. I was going to make this sacrifice worth it. I learned to cook gourmet meals from scratch. I maintained an immaculate home. I organized elaborate birthday parties and holiday celebrations. I volunteered at every school function. I knew all the other mothers, attended all the soccer games, helped with every homework assignment. Emma and Michael thrived. They were happy, well-adjusted kids who felt loved and supported. That was my achievement, my legacy. David thrived too. With me managing everything at home, he could focus entirely on work. He climbed from junior accountant to partner in 12 years. Fast, even for someone with his talent. He brought in major clients. He was respected, successful, wealthy. Our marriage slowly suffocated under the weight of my resentment and his indifference. He stopped asking about my day because my days were all the same. He stopped being interested in my thoughts because my thoughts revolved around carpools and grocery lists. He stopped seeing me as a partner and started seeing me as staff, the person who managed his home, raised his children, and occasionally warmed his bed. And I let it happen. I let myself become invisible. There were moments when I tried to reclaim myself. When Emma started kindergarten, I mentioned maybe going back to teaching. David frowned and said, "Why would you do that? We don't need the money, and Emma still needs you." When both kids were in middle school, I suggested I might finally pursue that PhD. David laughed, and said, "At your age, Rachel, that's a young person's game. Besides, who'd take care of things here?" I should have fought harder. I should have insisted. I should have told him that I mattered too, that my dreams had value, that I was more than just his support system. But I didn't. I stayed quiet. I stayed small. I convinced myself that this was love, that real love meant sacrifice, meant putting others first, meant being the foundation that others built their lives upon. Now I understand the truth. I wasn't being selfless. I was being erased. And the man I'd erased myself for was using my sacrifice as cover for his betrayal. "Rachel?" David's voice pulled me back to the present. He was standing in the bedroom doorway, loosening his tie, looking tired and unsuspecting. "What are you doing with that?" I held up the burner phone, my hand steady, even though my heart was racing. "Who's David?" His face went white. Actually white. The color drained from his skin like someone had pulled a plug. He stared at the phone, then at me, then back at the phone. Where did you find that?" "It fell out of your coat. The one I was taking to the dry cleaners." My voice was calm, eerily calm. "You know, because I take care of your clothes. Because I take care of everything while you're out texting your mistress about hotel rooms." "Rachel, don't." I stood up, holding the phone between us like evidence in a trial. "Don't you dare say my name with that tone, that pleading, I can explain tone. You already explained, remember? 6 days ago, on your knees, crying, promising me it was over." "I can explain?" I laughed, a harsh sound I didn't recognize as my own. "Explain why you have a second phone? Explain why Ashley is texting you about tomorrow's hotel meeting? Explain which part of 'it's over' I misunderstood?" He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. For the first time in 23 years, my articulate husband was speechless. I scrolled through the phone, reading messages aloud. "Last night was incredible. That was Tuesday, David. The same day you begged for forgiveness. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is Friday. When exactly did this affair end? It's complicated." "No." I threw the phone at him. It bounced off his chest and clattered to the floor. "It's not complicated. You lied. You got on your knees and cried and promised me it was over, and you lied. You held me Monday night, made love to me, whispered that you'd never hurt me again, and it was all lies." "Rachel, please. How long has it been going on?" I demanded. The truth this time, not the 3 months you told me before. "How long?" He bent down to pick up the phone, avoiding my eyes. 8 months. 8 months. I staggered backward, sitting hard on the bed again. 8 months. While I was planning Emma's graduation trip, while I was helping Michael pack for MIT, while I was cooking his favorite meals and sleeping beside him and playing the role of the perfect wife. "Why?" The word came out as a whisper. "Just tell me why. What did I do wrong?" "You didn't do anything wrong." He sat down beside me, but I flinched away from him. "This isn't about you. How can it not be about me? I'm your wife. You're perfect, Rachel. You've always been perfect. Perfect mother, perfect homemaker, perfect wife." He ran his hands through his hair, frustrated. "That's the problem." I stared at him, unable to process what I was hearing. "I'm too perfect? That's your excuse?" You don't understand. You're so settled, so content with this life. You never want anything more. You never challenge me or surprise me or what? Act like a 20-something gym bunny who makes you feel young again? The bitterness in my voice was acid. I'm sorry I'm 51 instead of 28. I'm sorry I gave you 2 children and it changed my body. I'm sorry I spent 20 years making your life comfortable instead of staying young and exciting. That's not fair. Fair? I stood up, rage replacing the numbness. You want to talk about fair? I gave up my career for you. I gave up my PhD, my teaching, my dreams. I raised your children. I managed your home. I supported every single one of your goals while all of mine got shelved. And now you're telling me I'm too perfect, too settled, that I don't challenge you enough? Rachel, get out. What? Get out. I pointed to the door. Get out of this bedroom. Get out of my sight. Get out before I do something we'll both regret. Rachel, we need to talk about this. Talk? I laughed again. That same harsh sound. You want to talk now? After 8 months of lying? After making me feel crazy for suspecting something at that party? After letting me forgive you for an affair you never actually ended? I grabbed his pillow and threw it at him. Then his reading glasses from the nightstand. Then the framed photo of us from our 10th anniversary. Rachel, stop. Why? Because I'm supposed to be perfect? Because I'm supposed to be settled and content and not make a scene? I was screaming now. Years of suppressed anger erupting. You want me to challenge you, David? Here's a fucking challenge. Explain to our children why their father is a lying, cheating coward. He flinched at that. Don't bring Emma and Michael into this. They're already in this. This is their family you're destroying. This is their mother you're humiliating. I never meant to humiliate you, but you did. You do. Every time you text her. Every time you meet her at a hotel. Every time you come home and kiss me like everything is fine. You humiliate me with every breath. The fight went out of him. His shoulders slumped. What do you want me to do? I want you to leave. Tonight. Pack a bag and get out of this house. Rachel. Now. He left. Packed a bag in the guest room while I stood in our bedroom, shaking with rage and grief and 23 years of swallowed words. When I heard the garage door close behind his car, I collapsed. I fell to my knees on the carpet and sobbed until my throat was raw and my eyes were swollen and there were no tears left. Then I called my sister Maggie. He's been lying, I told her when she answered. The whole time. It never ended. I'm coming over, she said immediately. Give me 20 minutes. Maggie, I don't know what to do. Yes, you do, my sister said. You know exactly what to do. You're just scared to do it. But I'm here. I've got you. We're going to figure this out. She arrived with wine and tissues and righteous anger on my behalf. We sat on my couch until 3 a.m. while I told her everything. Leave him, Maggie said. Take him for everything he's got. But I wasn't ready. Not yet. Because leaving meant admitting failure. It meant starting over at 51 with nothing. No career, no income, no identity outside of being David Morrison's wife. I had to be ready. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in my home office, the room I'd once imagined would be my writing space but had become a catch-all for holiday decorations and old tax returns. And I thought about my life. Really thought about it. Maybe for the first time in 20 years. Who was Rachel Morrison without David? I'd been Rachel Bennett for 28 years. Then Rachel Morrison for 23. At 51 years old, I'd spent more of my life as someone's wife than as myself. What did I even like? What made me happy? I used to know. I used to love teaching. I loved literature, poetry, the written word. I loved hiking in the Columbia River Gorge, early morning walks when the mist was still rising. I loved reading contemporary fiction and discussing it with friends over coffee. I loved the feeling of helping a student find their voice. When had I stopped doing those things? Slowly. So slowly I hadn't noticed. The hikes got replaced with Emma's soccer games. The reading got pushed aside for PTA meetings. The teaching became a distant memory, sacrificed on the altar of supporting David's career. I'd erased myself so completely that I didn't even know who I was anymore. But sitting there at 3 a.m, something shifted inside me, something hard and cold and determined. David thought I was too settled, too perfect, too comfortable. He was right, but not in the way he meant. I'd settled for a life that made me small. I'd perfected the art of making myself invisible. I'd gotten comfortable with being nothing more than his support staff. Well, I was done settling. I opened my laptop and started searching. Divorce lawyers in Portland, Oregon divorce law, division of assets in long-term marriages. What I found made my pulse quicken. Oregon was a no-fault divorce state, which meant I didn't have to prove David's infidelity to end the marriage. But his infidelity could affect the settlement, especially when it came to dissipation of marital assets. Money he'd spent on Ashley, hotels and dinners and jewelry that should have been our shared resources. And in a marriage as long as ours, with him as the sole breadwinner for the last 20 years, I was entitled to spousal support, possibly permanent spousal support, given my age and how long I'd been out of the workforce. Our house was in both our names, purchased with money he'd earned but maintained by my unpaid labor. The vacation cabin at Mount Hood, joint property, his 401k, I was entitled to half of everything accumulated during our marriage. His pension at Patterson and Associates, a significant portion of that was mine too. I'd spent 20 years thinking I had nothing because I wasn't earning a paycheck, but Oregon law recognized what I'd done, the unpaid labor of managing a household, raising children, supporting a spouse's career, as a contribution to our marital assets. I wasn't starting from nothing. I was starting from the foundation of 23 years of partnership, and legally, I was entitled to my share. The fear began to lift. Around 4 a.m., I opened a new folder on my laptop and titled it Documentation. Then I started making lists. Every hotel charge I could remember from the credit card statements. Every late night at work that might have been a lie. Every gift I'd never received that appeared on our accounts. Every suspicious phone call. Every weird excuse. Every time my intuition had screamed that something was wrong and I'd ignored it. I took screenshots of the messages on the burner phone before David could come back and demand it. I forwarded them to my email. I documented everything. By 5 a.m., I'd created a timeline of David's affair, or at least what I could prove of it. 8 months of evidence. Maybe more, if I dug deeper into our financial records. At 6 a.m., I called the #1 divorce attorney in Portland, according to Google reviews. I left a message requesting an appointment as soon as possible. At 7 a.m., I called my daughter Emma. "Mom," she answered groggily. "It's like 4 a.m. here. What's wrong?" I'd forgotten about the time difference. Berkeley was 3 hours behind. "I'm sorry, honey. I needed to hear your voice. What happened?" She was alert now, worried. "Is Dad okay?" Was Dad okay? That was her first question. Always had been. David was the successful one, the important one. I was just Mom, always steady, always there, never the one in crisis. "Your father and I are separating," I said, the words coming out clear and firm. Saying them aloud made them real. "What? Why? Mom, what happened?" "It's complicated, sweetheart, but you need to know it's not your fault, and it doesn't change how much we both love you and your brother." "Did he?" Emma paused. "Is he having an affair?" "Yes." Silence on the other end. Then, "That fucking asshole." I'd never heard my daughter curse before. It shocked a laugh out of me. "Emma, no, I'm serious. I knew something was off when I was home for Christmas. He was always on his phone, always distracted, and you look so sad. I thought maybe it was just empty nest syndrome, but this makes way more sense." "You noticed?" "Of course I noticed, Mom. You're my mother. I know you." She paused. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet, but I'm figuring it out. I just wanted you to hear it from me first." "Good. Because if he tries to spin this his way, I will lose it." Emma's voice was fierce, protective. "You deserve better than this, Mom. You've always deserved better." "Thank you, honey. I'm serious. Don't let him manipulate you into staying. Don't forgive him again. You've spent your whole life making sacrifices for this family. It's time someone put you first." After we hung up, I sat there crying. But this time they weren't tears of grief. They were tears of gratitude. My daughter saw me. Really saw me. At 9 a.m., the divorce attorney's office called back. They had an opening tomorrow at 2 p.m. I took it. At 10 a.m., David called. "Can we talk?" he asked. "Through lawyers," I said. "Rachel, please. I made a mistake. Multiple mistakes. Hundreds of them. Every text, every lie, every time you chose her over me. I choose you. I'm choosing you now. Too late. I hung up. He called back immediately. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. Rachel, I love you. We can work through this. Don't throw away 23 years. I deleted it without listening to the whole thing. At noon, I called Michael. The conversation was harder with my son. He was angrier, more confrontational. Why would he do this? He kept asking. Why would he risk everything? I don't know, I admitted. But it's not your burden to carry. By sundown, both my children knew. My sister knew. Soon, everyone would know that perfect David Morrison, partner at Patterson and Associates, devoted family man, had destroyed his marriage for a woman half his age. Let him deal with the fallout. I was done protecting his reputation. The meeting with the divorce attorney changed everything. Her name was Patricia Mendez, and she was exactly what I needed. Sharp, no nonsense, and with a reputation for getting her clients what they deserved. Her office was in a high-rise downtown, with a view of the Willamette River and expensive modern furniture that screamed success. Tell me everything, she said, after we'd gone through the pleasantries. So I did. 23 years of marriage condensed into 45 minutes. The affair, the lies, the sacrificed career, the years of making myself invisible while David built his empire on the foundation of my unpaid labor. Patricia took notes on her tablet, her expression neutral but attentive. When I finished, she looked up and smiled. Not a warm smile, a warrior's smile. Mrs. Morrison, I'm going to be honest with you. You have a very strong case, but you need to understand what you're up against. Your husband is a partner at one of Portland's most prestigious accounting firms. He has resources. He'll hire excellent attorneys. This could get ugly. I don't care, I said, surprising myself with how much I meant it. I want what I'm owed. Good, because you're owed quite a lot. She turned her tablet to show me some calculations. Oregon is an equitable distribution state. After a 23-year marriage where you were out of the workforce to support his career, you're looking at substantial spousal support, probably permanent, given your age and work history. How substantial? Based on his income as a partner, and I'll need to verify this, but partners at Patterson typically make between $400,000 and $700,000 a year. You could be looking at anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 per month, possibly more. The number stunned me. That much? You supported his career for over 20 years. You raised his children. You sacrificed your own professional development. Oregon law recognizes that as a contribution to marital assets. Patricia leaned forward. Mrs. Morrison, do you understand what you helped build? Your husband's success isn't his alone. You're entitled to benefit from it. What about the house? You'll likely keep it, or receive the equity if it's sold. It's marital property purchased during the marriage. Same with the vacation cabin. And his retirement? You're entitled to half of everything accumulated during the marriage. His 401k, his pension, any other retirement accounts. Patricia's smile sharpened. Mrs. Morrison, when we're done, you're going to be financially independent. You won't need David Morrison for anything. The relief was dizzying. I wasn't going to be destitute. I wasn't going to have to go crawling back to him, because I had no way to support myself. There's something else, Patricia said. You mentioned he spent marital funds on his mistress. Hotels, dinners, jewelry. Do you have documentation? Credit card statements going back 8 months. Perfect. That's dissipation of marital assets. We can argue he should reimburse you for that money. It won't be the full amount. But judges don't look kindly on spouses who spend community property on affairs. I left Patricia's office feeling stronger than I had in years. I had a plan. I had legal protection. I had ammunition. But the real power shift came 3 days later, when I was going through our home office to gather financial documents for Patricia. I was looking for tax returns, when I found a locked filing cabinet drawer. David had always told me it contained client confidential information from work, things he couldn't leave at the office for security reasons. I'd never questioned it. But now I questioned everything. I found the key in his desk drawer, because David, for all his intelligence, wasn't particularly creative about hiding things. The cabinet opened easily. Inside were files, lots of files, but not client files, financial documents, statements for accounts I'd never seen before, a brokerage account in David's name only with over $200,000 in it, a savings account at a different bank with another $75,000, stock certificates, investment records, hidden assets. My hands shook as I photographed every page. David had been siphoning money out of our joint accounts. Money I never tracked because I trusted him to handle our finances, and squirreling it away in separate accounts. Was he planning to leave me? Had he been setting up his exit strategy? Or was this just more evidence of how little he valued me, how little he thought I needed to know about our financial situation? I found something else too, a folder labeled Property Investment. Inside were documents for a condo purchase in Pearl District, one of Portland's trendiest neighborhoods, purchased 8 months ago, right when the affair started. David's name was on the title, not Ashley's, just his, a love nest. He'd bought them a fucking love nest with our money. The rage that went through me was white hot, but underneath it was something else, satisfaction. Because this was evidence. This was proof of dissipation of marital assets on a massive scale. Patricia was going to love this, but I didn't send the documents to her right away. First, I needed to understand the full scope of what David had hidden. I spent the next 2 days going through every file in that cabinet, cataloging everything. $327,000 in hidden accounts. A condo worth $450,000 purchased with what should have been marital funds, probably from bonuses he'd never told me about. Stock options from Patterson and Associates that I'd never known existed, worth another $180,000. Nearly $1 million that he'd hidden from me, his wife, his partner, the woman who'd sacrificed everything to help him get where he was. I also found documents related to his partnership agreement at Patterson and Associates, his compensation structure, his profit-sharing arrangement, information I needed to ensure I got my fair share. And I found something else, something that made my blood run cold, a drafted separation agreement, dated from 6 months ago, before I'd discovered any of his lies. It was never signed, never presented to me, but it was there, a document outlining what David thought was a fair division of assets if we divorced. In his version of fair, I got the house, with its mortgage, and $3,000 a month in spousal support for 5 years. He kept everything else, the cabin, the retirement accounts, the hidden assets, obviously, since they weren't even mentioned. He'd been planning this. For months, he'd been planning to discard me, to give me just enough to survive while he rode off into the sunset with Ashley and his hidden fortune. The betrayal went so much deeper than I'd imagined. I photographed every document. Then I put everything back exactly as I'd found it, locked the cabinet, and returned the key to his desk drawer. David thought I was the passive, trusting wife who would never question him, never investigate, never fight back. He was about to discover how wrong he was. I became someone I didn't recognize, someone methodical, strategic, cold. For the next 2 weeks, I gathered evidence like I was preparing for war, because I was. I went to our bank and requested copies of all statements for the past 5 years. The teller looked at me strangely when I asked for both our joint accounts and any accounts in David's name only, but I was an authorized party on the joint accounts. An Oregon community property law gave me rights to information about assets acquired during marriage. I discovered 3 additional hidden accounts. Smaller ones, $10,000 here, $15,000 there. Mad money he'd been setting aside while telling me we needed to be careful with spending. I photographed every credit card statement I could find, highlighting charges at hotels, restaurants, jewelry stores. I created a spreadsheet tracking the dissipation of marital assets. The total came to $43,847, $56 spent on his affair. Nearly $44,000 of our money that could have gone to Emma's graduate school, to Michael's education, to the retirement I thought we were building together. I hired a forensic accountant through Patricia's office. His name was Leonard Chen, and he specialized in finding hidden assets in divorce cases. I gave him everything I'd found. "This is excellent work, Mrs. Morrison," he said, reviewing my documentation. "You've done half my job already. Give me 2 weeks, and I'll know every cent your husband has tried to hide." I also did something that felt simultaneously empowering and terrifying. I applied for jobs. At 51, with a 20-year gap in my employment history, I wasn't expecting much, but I had a master's degree in education and years of volunteer experience. I applied to private schools looking for English teachers. I applied to tutoring centers. I even applied to Portland State University's continuing education program as an instructor. To my shock, I got 3 interviews within a week. The headmaster at Lakewood Academy, a prestigious private school in Lake Oswego, was particularly interested. "We value life experience," he told me. Someone who's raised children, who understands the whole picture of education beyond just the classroom. And your academic credentials are impressive. I left that interview with a job offer, teaching junior and senior English literature, starting in the fall semester. The salary wasn't much, $52,000 a year, but it was mine. Income I'd earned myself, a step toward independence. I accepted immediately. Meanwhile, David was spiraling. He'd moved into a hotel at first, probably the same ones he'd been using for his affairs, which gave me bitter satisfaction. But after a week, he rented an apartment in the Pearl District, not the condo he'd bought for Ashley, a different place. He called constantly. He sent flowers. He sent letters. He even showed up at the house one Saturday morning, looking haggard and desperate. "Rachel, please, we need to talk. Talk to my attorney," I said through the door. I didn't let him in. This was my house now, my space. He'd given up his right to enter it when he'd betrayed me. I made a terrible mistake. I know that now, but I love you. I've always loved you. You love the idea of me, I called back. You love having someone to manage your life while you do whatever you want. That's not the same thing as loving me. That's not true. Go away, David. You're trespassing. This is my house, too. Then explain that to the police when I call them. He left, but not before leaving another letter on the doorstep. I threw it away without reading it. Ashley reached out too, which was bold. She sent me a Facebook message. "Mrs. Morrison, I know you probably hate me, but I want you to know that David and I really love each other. He was already unhappy in your marriage before we met. I didn't break up your marriage. It was already broken. I hope someday you can find it in your heart to understand." The audacity of it left me breathless. I showed the message to Patricia. "Don't respond," she advised. "But save it. It's evidence of the affair, and her admission that they're still together undermines any claim he might make about trying to save the marriage." I saved it. I saved everything. My sister Maggie became my rock during this time. She came over every few days, bringing wine and takeout, listening while I raged or cried or plotted my next move. "You're kind of scary now," she said one night, watching me update my spreadsheet of hidden assets. "In a good way, like you've become this warrior version of yourself." "I should have been this person years ago," I said. "Maybe if I had been, David wouldn't have thought he could walk all over me." "That's bullshit and you know it," Maggie said firmly. "His affair isn't your fault. Him being a lying, cheating asshole isn't your fault. You were a good wife. He was a bad husband. End of story." Emma came home from Berkeley for a long weekend. She sat at the kitchen table with me, going through documents, helping me organize evidence. My daughter, the psychology major, analyzing her father's behavior like a case study. "He's a classic narcissist," she said clinically. "Grandiose sense of self, needs constant admiration, lacks empathy. The affair isn't about you not being enough, Mom. It's about you not reflecting back his amazingness every second of every day. You got older, you got more independent in your thinking, you stopped worshiping him, and he couldn't handle it. When did you get so wise?" I asked. "I had a good teacher." She squeezed my hand. "You've always been stronger than you thought you were. Now everyone else is going to see it too." Michael came home too, though his visit was more difficult. He was angry with David, but he was also his father's son. Logical, analytical, wanting to understand the why of it all. "I just don't get it," he said. "He had everything. Good job, good family. Why blow it all up?" "Because having everything wasn't enough," I told him. "Some people will never be satisfied, no matter what they have." "Are you going to be okay?" he asked quietly. "Financially, I mean. Do you need help?" My 20-year-old son, offering to help support me. It broke my heart and made me proud in equal measure. "I'm going to be fine," I assured him. "Better than fine. I'm going to make sure of it." 2 weeks after I'd filed for divorce, Leonard Chen called with his report. "Mrs. Morrison, your husband has been very creative with hiding assets," he said, "but not creative enough. I've found everything. The total value of hidden assets comes to $1.3 million. $1.3 million. There's more," Leonard continued. "His partnership interest at Patterson & Associates is worth approximately $2.1 million if it were to be liquidated. Combined with your marital home, the vacation cabin, retirement accounts, and standard investment portfolios, You're looking at a marital estate worth approximately $5.7 million. I sat down hard, dizzy with the implications. David had been telling me for years that we needed to be careful with money, that we couldn't afford certain expenses, that we should save and be frugal. Meanwhile, he'd been sitting on millions. "Mrs. Morrison, are you there?" "I'm here," I said. "Just processing. You're entitled to half of everything acquired during the marriage. We're talking about a settlement in the range of $2.8 to $3 million plus substantial spousal support." David thought he could buy a condo for his mistress, hide money in secret accounts, and leave me with scraps. He was wrong. The war was just beginning, and I was going to win. The showdown happened in Patricia's conference room on a gray Tuesday in late April. David arrived with his attorney, Marcus Walsh, a slick corporate lawyer in an expensive suit. David looked terrible. He'd lost weight, his hair was graying faster, and there were dark circles under his eyes. Part of me felt satisfaction at that. Part of me felt sad for what we'd lost. I sat across the table from him with Patricia beside me, my folder of evidence in front of me, Leonard Chen's forensic report on my tablet. I'd dressed carefully for this meeting, a navy suit I'd bought specifically for the occasion, professional makeup, my hair styled. I wanted to look powerful, in control. David couldn't meet my eyes. "Thank you all for coming," Patricia began. "We're here today to discuss settlement terms for the Morrison divorce. Mrs. Morrison has been more than reasonable in trying to reach an amicable agreement, but Mr. Morrison has refused to engage in good faith negotiations." Marcus cleared his throat. "My client has made a generous offer." "Your client's offer was insulting," Patricia interrupted. "Mr. Morrison offered Mrs. Morrison the marital home, which still has a $400,000 mortgage, and $4,000 per month in spousal support for 7 years. Given the length of this marriage and the disparity in earning capacity, that offer is laughable. My client is willing to negotiate." "Then let's negotiate." Patricia slid a document across the table. "This is our demand. Mrs. Morrison wants her fair share of the marital estate, which we valued at $5.7 million through forensic accounting." David's head snapped up. His face went pale. Marcus grabbed the document and started reading, his expression growing more alarmed with each page. This is excessive," Marcus said. "You're asking for half of everything, plus $15,000 a month in permanent spousal support. Community property state," Patricia said calmly. "Mrs. Morrison is entitled to half of everything acquired during a 23-year marriage. She's also entitled to spousal support commensurate with the lifestyle she enjoyed during the marriage, and appropriate for someone who spent 20 years out of the workforce supporting her husband's career." "The hidden assets," Marcus started. "Yes, let's talk about those." Patricia pulled out Leonard Chen's report. "Your client has been systematically hiding money from Mrs. Morrison for years. Secret bank accounts, undisclosed stock options, a condo purchased with marital funds without Mrs. Morrison's knowledge. We have documentation of all of it." David finally spoke, his voice hoarse. "Rachel, please. This is insane. You're trying to destroy me." "No," I said, my voice steady. "I'm trying to get what I'm owed, what I earned by supporting your career for 20 years. I worked for that money, and I worked to make it possible for you to earn it." I leaned forward. "While you were climbing the corporate ladder, I was raising your children. While you were networking at fancy dinners, I was managing your household. While you were building your reputation, I was sacrificing my career, my identity, my dreams. That money isn't just yours, David. It's ours. I earned my share of it. You want to leave me with nothing? Hardly. You'll still have half. You'll still have your career, your partnership, your income. You'll be fine. You've always been fine." "This is because of Ashley. This is because of me," I interrupted. "Because for the first time in 23 years, I'm putting myself first. You should try it sometime. Oh wait, you already have been. For 8 months. With community property. Which, by the way, you need to reimburse." Patricia slid another document across the table. "Schedule of dissipation. Your client spent $43,147.56 of marital funds on his affair. Hotels, dinners, jewelry for his mistress. We're asking for full reimbursement." Marcus was flipping through papers, his face growing redder. "Where did you get all this information?" Discovery, Patricia said smoothly. All legally obtained. Mrs. Morrison has been very thorough. David looked at me like he'd never seen me before. You went through my files? Our files, I corrected. In our home office. In our house. Community property, remember? You had no right. I had every right. I'm your wife. Was your wife. Whatever. I pulled out my phone and opened the photos I'd taken of the burner phone messages. Speaking of things I had every right to see, I slid the phone across the table. David and Marcus looked at the screen. More evidence of the ongoing affair, Patricia said. Time-stamped after Mr. Morrison's tearful confession and promises to end the relationship. Proof that he lied during marriage counseling attempts. Proof that he had no intention of reconciling. Rachel, I can explain. No, you can't. You can't explain why you bought a condo for your mistress with our money. You can't explain why you hid over $1 million from me. You can't explain why you drafted a separation agreement 6 months ago that would have left me with almost nothing. I pulled out that document too. Did you forget about this, David? Your backup plan? Your exit strategy? His face went from pale to ashen. You were never supposed to see that. I wasn't supposed to see a lot of things, but I did. And now everyone's going to see them. Rachel, please, sign the agreement, I said. Give me my fair share. Pay me the spousal support I'm entitled to. Reimburse the money you stole from our marriage to fund your affair. Or we go to court, and I make sure everyone knows what David Morrison really is. You wouldn't? I would. Patterson and Associates prides itself on ethics and family values, right? How would they feel knowing one of their partners embezzled marital assets? How would your clients feel? How would your children feel when all the details come out in court documents that become public record? That's blackmail. That's reality, Patricia interjected. Your client has 2 choices. Settle fairly now, or let a judge decide. Given the evidence, Mrs. Morrison has compiled, I'm confident a judge would award her even more than what we're asking. Marcus and David huddled in the corner, whispering furiously. I watched them, feeling a strange calm. I'd spent weeks terrified of this moment, but now that it was here, I felt nothing but clarity. I'd been powerful all along. I just hadn't known it. After 15 minutes, they came back to the table. My client agrees to most of your terms, Marcus said stiffly, but the spousal support request is too high. He can agree to $10,000 per month for 10 years. Permanent support or we go to court, Patricia said. Mrs. Morrison is 51 years old with a 20-year employment gap. 10 years of support isn't adequate. More whispered consultation. $2,500 per month. Permanent. Reviewable if Mrs. Morrison remarries or cohabitates. Marcus countered. Patricia looked at me. I nodded. Acceptable, Patricia said, with cost of living adjustments. And full reimbursement of dissipated assets. And Mrs. Morrison keeps the house free and clear. Mr. Morrison will pay off the remaining mortgage as part of the settlement. They agreed. To all of it. David would keep the condo, his love nest, but would have to buy out my share of its equity. I would get the vacation cabin outright. We'd split retirement accounts 50-50. Hidden assets would be disclosed and divided equally. When we signed the agreement, David's hand shook. Mine didn't. 6 months later, I stood in my classroom at Lakewood Academy, watching my students file in for first period junior English literature. My classroom, my students, my career, the one I'd given up 20 years ago and had somehow found my way back to. The settlement had been finalized in August. David and I were officially divorced. He'd moved into the Pearl District condo with Ashley, though I'd heard through mutual friends that the relationship was already showing cracks. Apparently, the thrill of an affair doesn't translate well into the mundane reality of daily life. I didn't care. He wasn't my problem anymore. The house in West Lynn was mine, free and clear. Every month, $2,500 appeared in my bank account like clockwork. My share of the marital assets, $2.8 million after taxes, sat in investment accounts managed by a financial advisor I'd hired. The vacation cabin was mine too, though I'd decided to sell it. Too many memories. For the first time in my adult life, I was financially independent. I didn't need David's money. I had my own. I didn't need his approval. I had my own sense of worth. I didn't need his validation. I was finding it in the faces of my students when they finally understood the symbolism in The Great Gatsby or crafted an essay that made them proud. Emma had been right. I'd always been stronger than I thought. I just needed to remember it. Ms. Bennett, One of my students waved a hand in the air. I'd gone back to using my maiden name. Rachel Bennett felt right, like coming home to myself after a long absence. Is it true you just got divorced after like 20 years? High school students. No filter. I should have been offended by the question, but instead, I laughed. 23 years, I corrected. And yes, it's true. Any particular reason you're asking? The student, a bright girl named Sophia, looked embarrassed. My parents are getting divorced. My mom is freaking out because she hasn't worked in 15 years and doesn't know what she's going to do. The class went quiet, everyone watching to see how I'd handle this. Tell your mom it's scary, but it's also an opportunity, I said carefully. Tell her that supporting a family and managing a household for 15 years takes intelligence, organization, and strength. Tell her those skills translate to the working world. And tell her that starting over isn't the end of her life. It might just be the beginning. Sophia nodded, blinking back tears. Did it feel like a beginning for you? I thought about that question. About the night I found the burner phone. About the rage and grief and terror. About thinking my life was over at 51. About discovering that it was just starting. Yeah, I said. It did. It does. That evening I met Maggie for dinner at our favorite Thai restaurant in downtown Portland. You look happy, my sister said, studying me over her pad thai. Like actually happy. Not fake happy or trying to convince yourself happy. I am happy, I realized. Is that weird? After everything you went through? It's miraculous. Maggie raised her wine glass. To new beginnings. To new beginnings, I echoed, clinking my glass against hers. My phone buzzed. A text from Emma. Mom, guess what? I got accepted into the PhD program at Stanford. They're offering full funding. I felt tears spring to my eyes. My daughter, brilliant and ambitious, pursuing her dreams without compromise. I texted back, so proud of you, sweetheart. When do you start? Next fall. You'll come visit, right? Help me move in? Wouldn't miss it. Michael sent a text in the family group chat, the one that no longer included David. Emma's going to be Dr. Bennett. Our family is full of badasses. Emma. Dr. Bennett Morrison, actually. I'm keeping both names. Michael. Whatever, still badass. Mom, when are you getting your PhD? The question stopped me. My PhD. The dream I'd deferred 23 years ago and assumed was gone forever. Was it? I was 51. But so what? The program at Portland State University still existed. My credits might even still be valid. I pulled up the PSU website on my phone, navigating to the Education PhD program information. What are you doing? Maggie asked. Research, I said. Michael just gave me an idea. Later that night, I sat at my desk. Not David's desk in the home office, but my own desk that I'd moved into the converted study, and composed an email to the Director of Graduate Studies in the Education Department at Portland State. I explained who I was, that I'd been accepted to their program 23 years ago, that life had taken me in a different direction, but that I was interested in exploring whether resuming my graduate studies was possible. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The response came the next morning. Ms. Bennett, we'd love to discuss this with you. Would you be available for a meeting next week? I would. I was. The meeting went better than I could have imagined. My previous credits were still valid. My experience, both as a former teacher and as someone who'd spent 20 years deeply involved in children's education through volunteering and parenting, was actually an asset. They accepted me into the program starting in January, part-time, so I could continue teaching. 5 years to completion if I stayed on track. I'd have my PhD by the time I was 56. David had told me I was too old, that it was a young person's game. But age was just a number, and I'd wasted enough years listening to people tell me what I couldn't do. Thanksgiving came. Emma and Michael both came home, and we had dinner at the house. Our house, no longer haunted by David's presence. To Mom, Emma said, raising her glass, who was officially the baddest badass in the family. Hear, hear, Michael agreed. We clinked glasses. Sparkling cider for me, since I was driving Emma to the airport early the next morning. Later, after the kids had gone to bed in their old rooms, I stood on the back deck, looking out at the lights of Portland spread below our hilltop home. I thought about the woman I'd been 6 months ago, terrified, broken, convinced her life was over. I thought about the woman I was now, strong, independent, full of possibility. The betrayal had nearly destroyed me, but in the end, it had freed me. I didn't forgive David. I didn't need to. Forgiveness wasn't for him. It would be for me, and I wasn't there yet. Maybe I never would be, but I didn't need forgiveness to move forward. I didn't need closure or understanding or even answers to all my questions. I just needed to keep moving, keep growing, keep becoming the woman I'd always had the potential to be. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity won. "Rachel, it's David. I know I'm not supposed to contact you, but I wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. You deserved better. I hope you're happy." I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I deleted it without responding. He didn't get to know if I was happy. He didn't get to be part of my story anymore. I was writing a new story now. One where I was the hero, not the supporting character. One where I saved myself. And in this story, I didn't need a man's forgiveness or apology or recognition to validate my worth. I'd found it myself. The night air was cold, but I stayed on the deck, watching the city lights and thinking about the future, about my PhD program, about my students, about the possibility of writing a book about returning to teaching after a long absence, about maybe someday when I was ready, opening myself up to love again, but this time with someone who saw me as an equal, not a support system. Or maybe not. Maybe I'd stay single. Maybe I'd focus on my career and my children and my friendships and myself. Maybe that would be enough. Actually, I knew it would be, because I was enough. I'd always been enough. I just hadn't known it before. The second phone had been the worst discovery of my life, but it had also been the catalyst for the best decision I'd ever made. The decision to choose myself, Rachel Ann Bennett, teacher, mother, soon-to-be doctoral student and survivor, not David Morrison's wife, not a victim, not a woman defined by her relationship to a man who didn't value her, just Rachel, whole, complete, free, and that was more than enough.